All right, so let's go towards the color black now. So weirdly enough, this is a Portal 3 Kingdoms reprint. Human Advisor, one in a black, enters the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. So this is so you could play your Portal 3 Kingdoms Ravenous Rat now, if you were looking to do that. That being said, Virus Beetle was like the best black common, maybe second best black common on the previous set. This is not the same set. It's not an artifact, and there's no ninjutsu to return it to your hand and replay it. That being said, discarding cards is going to be valuable in this set because of Connive and Casualty. Casualty is a thing, sure. Because there's so much Connive in this set, you're discarding your opponent's cards. Your opponent isn't going to have any dead cards in their hand. Like, every card that they have is going to be able to be used in some way. So giving them -1 card in hand is always going to be effective. Yeah, the original art for this is actually just a total banger. You're totally correct. Look at that corrupt court official just living the life with all the bribes they have received. That is fantastic artwork for sure. But it is Casualty 1. Well, it does work really well with it works well with what? This one, right? Rooftop Nuisance. It's also a 2-drop creature that can go to the graveyard pretty easily for maybe your threshold needs. These type of cards have always been, like, back when blue-black on versus blue-black was a really common occurrence in Sealed. Ravenous Rats was in that set. This card was in that set, and it was a really, really good sideboard card. This is mostly going to be a blue-black card, I think. But we'll see. We haven't seen the other colors. We don't know whether Casualty really exists or not. But I think it's going to be a 4 or 5. I'm going to probably put it as a 4 for now. So you're going to play like maybe half the time. Maybe a little bit less than half the time in your sealed decks. But it's much more of a sideboard card than it is a main deck card, I think. Crooked Custodian, 2 mana, 3/2, enters the battlefield tapped. And our battlefield tapped is a pretty big downside. Pretty big downside for this. It does hit hard. You can't just say Casualty and say the power of every single card that I'm looking at. That's not a way to, like, hey, this creature is good because it's a creature. Like, that's not an answer. It doesn't block all the 3/3s for 2 because the 3/3s for 2 don't come into play tapped, right? We commented earlier how every common 2-drop has 3 power or 3 toughness, right? All of them do. So, like, you can at least try to, like, battle with those. But the problem is any X2 is going to be looking really bad against the white Gathering Throng / Inspiring Overseer cards, right? I think the 2 health it's a really bad number to be having. And plus, being aggro and sealed is not a thing that you want to be doing. Speaking of aggro and sealed, this is not a card you want to be playing. Leave aggro for the draft eras. Casualty 2, you're right. Target creature gets -3/-3 until the turn. Target player mills 3 cards. This is a cool card. Bypasses shield. It can give you instant speed threshold pretty easily. What was it? Grizzly Spectacle? Grizzly Spectacle was, like, pretty insane. You can also target your opponent if you think you need to deck them. This card is probably really good. I'll put it as a 7 just because every 4-drop I've seen has 4 health and this doesn't kill them. The deck damage output is real. It is real. This might be worse than I think. I guess it just kind of depends how important Threshold is for you. The fact that this instant speed get Threshold is so angry. It's so tilting to me that they printed all these cards to give you instant speed Threshold. Hate it. But this is a 6. Just because it's always going to be tempo negative to play this card. But I think you're still going to play it. Scrytooth and Jawtooth. Yeah, I mean, these cards, Dark Bargain exists, and this is mostly just better Dark Bargain, right? So No, I mean, this is Dark Bargain. It is tempo negative, but scry 2, draw 2 is exactly what you want to be doing. It's too bad it doesn't say target player draws 2 and loses 2 life. It would actually make the card a lot better if it said that. Signing blooding your opponent to death is something that happened like a pretty significant amount of the time. You'd have to draw at least 3 cards to be a Darkest Bargain. Dig up the body. Casualty 1. Mill 2 cards, then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Casualty. Okay, see this. You do this in response to a removal spell, and you get double Raise Dead and Threshold. Because you're gonna put like 4 cards in the graveyard, maybe 3, 4, or 5 cards in the graveyard. Okay, this seems pretty good. Casualty 1 is pretty awesome. This Dig Up the Body is way better than Demons do. Extract the Truth. Yeah, you can block and sack and get insane value for sure. Well, there's also the thing that you're going to self-mill yourself a lot, and you want to be able to get your creature bombs, and just get your creature bombs, right? So this is going to be like a super important card in the set. In fact, if I just want to call it an 8, because I think this card is like super duper important, you should always be playing it. And the fact that this card exists means you should be playing your removal spells when your opponent's tapped out at all times. You should never be waiting to the last moment with your instant speed spells, I think. 2 mana, target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a creature, enchantment, or planeswalker card from it. They discard that card, or they sack an enchantment. This is a really cool card. I'm glad that it exists to kill all the broken enchantments. Does it improve Court Official? I mean, maybe it does. Yeah. I think I'd rather just have a good card instead of this, though. Yeah, black enchantment removal. Both ways, right? You can take it from their hand or make them sack it. There's no enchantment creatures in this set, though, so it doesn't always have a target. This is a really good sideboard card, I think. I don't know if you want to be main decking it at 2 mana. It's not embarrassing to main deck it. I'll put it as a 4. It's not embarrassing to main deck this. So I think this will have a target a lot of the time. By the way, it does make the ransomed even worse. The fishies, at least, like, the creature is still tapped when they break it off, right? You still get a 1/1 out of it. Yeah, it's not embarrassing to main deck that card. Fake your own death. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/0 and gains. Whenever this creature dies, returns to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. And okay, these cards always suck. So I don't play them. There's one of these black fake your own deaths cards in every single set, and they're always terrible. Can you bring up the same creature? Yeah. This actually has no target, so you can't even fizzle it. You can actually return one of the creatures that you mill with this. Whenever this dies, create a tapped 2/2 black rogue creature token. This card is pretty good. This looks pretty good to me. 5 mana 4/4 when it dies, make a 2/2? This looks pretty good. It's also a 4 mana 2/2 draw card. 4 mana 2/2 tapped draw card, deal 4, right? Yeah. This card seems pretty strong. I like this card. This is better than every blue common. Yeah, I think so. It's basically on the same power level as this fellow, I think. Maybe it's a little bit worse than that fellow, but this is a cool card. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by the same player. That player sacrifices one of them. This is weird. This is a weirdly worded card. Like, if you choose 2 target creatures, then you kill the other one, then they have to sack the other one, right? It's a really weird one. Yeah, eat extra best when there's 1 creature in play, right? Because you always get it. This card seems pretty medium minus. I don't think I want to play that card. It's not embarrassing to play, but I don't think you want to play it. Bypassing Shield, I mean, whatever. I haven't seen Shield be on anything in the format. 5 mana casualty to create a 4/3. This is kind of cool. This is such a giant Punisher card to the auras that enchant creatures. Like Hold for Ransom. So it's such a giant Punisher for this. Yeah, I think basically you want to play this if you're planning on using casualty on it. And Ogre punishing, you're right, my apologies. This is really good if your opponent is planning on enchanting your creatures for sure. It's pretty neat to go like turn 4 this fellow, blitz it, turn 5 this. Maybe. This could be good. The fact that it's actually a sorcery is pretty big upside, right? Because it allows you to have a 5-drop in your graveyard for Threshold. Like creatures, they're just always they're gonna be in play, so they don't contribute to your Threshold count. So I think the fact that it actually goes to your graveyard as a 5-mana card is actually a big deal. It's like a secret power-up card for the Threshold things. Because you can also casualty a card in your play to get another creature in the graveyard, to get 2 cards in your graveyard for Threshold. Yeah, I think this card might actually just be secretly quite good. The 4/3 bodies are decent-sized bodies, because we've seen that most things, like 4 toughness is like the benchmark for the set. So if you have 4 power, then you're good. I think this card's actually good. 2 into black, Maestros Initiate. Exile Maestros Initiate from your graveyard. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Wow, this card's great. You connive it away? This is the flashback card, right? Huh. Well, it's amazing in everything. You can just play it in every color. Like, you would play a white, green, red deck with no swamps and you'd still play this card. You can, like, mill it away, or you can discard it to connive. This card seems pretty good. I think you're probably always going to play this card. Might think it's a 7? I think it's at least a 6. It is really expensive, but it being a free flashback card, maybe in a set that doesn't have that many flashback cards, maybe it's worth it. The thing is, if you open 3 of them, are you going to play all 3 of them? I don't think you are. I think I would probably play 1 or 2 of these. I don't know if I'd play 3 of these in my sealed deck if I open 3 of them. Yeah, I don't know if it's better than Girder Goons. But this card might be a 7. It does trade really well against all the other enemy 2-drops, yeah. Maybe Girder Goons is a 7. Flying Death Touch 1/2. These cards, I hate them. I don't want anything to do with them. If it had Lifelink Death Touch, then I'm on board. But yeah, Girder Goons is looking really good. It's tough for me to tell whether like the front side or the back side is better. But like whether like the 4-mana 2/2 draw card, deal 4 is better, or the 5-mana 4/4 when it dies make a 2/2, right? It's tough to tell which half of that is better. Murder. Alright, we're here. Revel Ruiner, 4-mana 3/1 menace. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. This thing hits hard. That's a 4-mana evasion for 4 mana. This thing hits really hard. Was it Malfist Squad? Is that what this was? This does look familiar to me. You're right, it is. Malfist Squad is really good, I thought. Good call on that one. This thing hits really hard. I like it. This is like the most aggro card we've seen in the set so far. Like, White would have loved a card like this. This is probably worse than Malfist Squad. But Malfist Squad was really good. This card seems quite strong to me. Best case scenario, 2 for 2? No, the best case scenario is it's a 4-mana 4/2 that looted that your opponent can't block. Or they can't block profitably. Like, the best case scenario is your opponent's dead, because you tap them for your 4-power evasion creature. Like, maybe I'm wrong on this. I'm willing to be wrong on it. This seems like it just hits so hard, though. Maybe it's a 5. The black commons are pretty impressive. Girder Goons and Join the Maestros and Deal Gone Bad. These all look like pretty... Oh, and I think the big one is going to be Dig Up the Body, which is going to be a key card in the format. This is going to be a super important card in the format. I think you should play like all the one of these that you open. It's going to be completely insane. Alright, for uncommons, what do we got? Dusk Mangler, 7-mana 5/4 as an additional cost to cast this card. Sack a creature, discard a card and pay for life. Oh, or pay for life. Whew. Alright, I'll pay for life. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent just sacrifices a creature, discards a card, and loses 4 life. Okay. 1 for me and 3 for you. Yeah. This card seems quite good. Yeah, sacking my own creature is a thing that you might want to do sometimes, yeah. How do you mangle Dusk exactly? That's a good question. I think he just mangles in the dusk, right? Basically, if you're outside past like 7 p.m., he's gonna get you. The mangling hour. This card seems pretty good. The discard of card, I think, is quite important. Your opponent might have only 1 or 2 cards in hand on turn 7. But it having 4 toughness is... not a fan of it. The 4 toughness makes me kind of sad. But I think it's a card you're probably going to want to play. Yeah, you do 1 and your opponent does all 3. The spell has Flash as long as there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard. Okay, return target. It doesn't enter the battlefield tapped. Not a fan of this card existing. All creatures in this format have Flash. It's so frustrating. If you try attacking with a creature that has only 2 health, good luck. This card is probably really good. Yeah, if your opponent has open mana up on your turn and you can attack them, it's bad news. Well, with sorcery speed, it sucks, right? It's not because Rise from the Grave is a card that you could go from like either graveyard, and that card was like pretty medium. This only hit your graveyard. But at Flash, Grizzly Sigil. Okay, so this one is kind of hard to understand. It's really hard to grok. So it's a 1-mana sorcery, casualty 1. And it says, you choose target creature or planeswalker. If it was dealt non-combat damage this turn, Grizzly Sigil deals 3 damage to it and you gain 3 life. Otherwise, it deals 1 damage to it and you gain 1 life. This is really complex to reading, but basically it's a 1-mana deal 1, gain 1. Or if you sack a creature, it's a deal 4, gain 4. Or if you want to sack a creature, you can deal 1 to 2 targets. I don't know why you want to do that. It can't hit face. It's mostly going to be a Bone Splinters that gains 4 life. Yes, that's basically what it's trying to be. It's mostly a Bone Splinters that it doesn't get around shield because it deals damage. So you just pop the shield and deal 1 to it. The second only deals 1 because it hasn't been dealt non-combat damage, I think. It's a good question, but my understanding of shield is that it prevents the damage, so it wasn't dealt non-combat damage. I don't know. Good question to ask, though. This is basically Bone Splinters, gain 4. Because most things are at 4/4 in this set. This is a good card to come back from behind with. I like to buy out for 1 mana, but I don't know. I haven't seen that many X1s outside of the white one that you want to kill. Although I don't know if you even want to kill it. Who knows? This is interesting. This is an interesting card. I definitely don't like Bone Splinters and Sealed. Oops. I don't like Bone Splinters and Sealed very much. Because I have my creatures and I don't want to sacrifice them. But this does work really well with Blitz. Right? Maybe this is good because of Blitz. Because Blitz, it doesn't have to die into turn. It says if it dies at all, draw a card on the Blitz cards. So I think the fact Blitz is like having Unearth sort of type of deal. So like maybe this is a lot better just because of Blitz. Because 4 life is a lot of life to be gaining. 4 life is a lot of life to gain for sure. It is. Oh, you know, the fact that it's a 1-mana card. It's a 1-mana card for your threshold. That's a really good point. That makes it a 7. Good point. This card sucks. Casualty. This card sucks. Don't play it. Diabolic Tutor at 4 mana is unplayable, and this costs 5. I want nothing to do with it. So, Nightclubber enters the battlefield. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. This is a cool card. You can cycle it for 3. Kills all citizens. This is a cool card. I think you're going to be blitzing this a vast majority of the time. Because I think I'd rather have a card than a random 2/2. with 0 mana 2/2 rare card. Instant speed? Well, it's not instant, right? It's a creature, it doesn't have flash. Blitzipus combat? Yeah, maybe. Nightclubber matches up really well against this because your opponent plays Inspiring Overseer, and then you blitz this thing out, and they take 2, and you kill it, and you draw a card, and they take, matches up pretty well with that. I guess I'll put it as a 6. The blitz actually makes it easier to cast, right? It's kind of weird that I feel like the blitz and the mana value of this card are swapped, right? That is very strange. When it enters the battlefield, it connives, 3 mana 1/1. Whenever it dies, target creature an opponent controls gets -X until the turn where X is Rafine's power. This seems awful. Do you think Clubber is more of a 7? It might be. There's like in Sealed, maybe in Draft it'll be better, but I think in Sealed there's not going to be that many 1/1s outside of the flyer to kill. It does bypass shield as well. This seems pretty bad. I don't even want to discard a spell to this, right? 3 mana 1/1 when it dies, give a creature -1/-1. This is terrible. I don't think I want anything to do with this. Like, I actually just want to make this a 3 so you just understand that you shouldn't be playing it. By the way, it uses last known information on this card. So if your opponent kills it with this, you don't get to do anything with it. Because its last known information it had -2 power or whatever. For each color, return up to 1 target creature card of that color from your graveyard to your hand. This card's ridiculous, right? This is going to return like 4 creatures. This is going to be like a 3 mana draw 4. This seems like pretty unreal. Yeah, this is pretty unreal. I mean, obviously this is a 7 or 8 mana spell, but it's a 3 mana draw 3 or 3 mana draw 4 on turn 7. Yeah, basically, if you open this card, you should always be playing it. Would I play 2? Yes. I would play as many as I open. This card's bananas. If you have like 3 blue, black, red cards in your graveyard, you get all 3 of them back, right? Tavern Swindler. This is a cool card. They printed it before and it wasn't good. It does flip coins. If you have some sort of triggers off life gain thing, it gains 6 life, which is a ton of life to be gaining. But I haven't seen any card that triggers off gaining X, like gain X life, like give a creature -X or something. That card doesn't exist. So it's a cool card. You shouldn't be playing it, but yeah, this used to have synergy before. It used to be a rogue, and it used to like have life gain triggers. It doesn't have it in this set, except for this guy, Vampire Scrivener, right here. Whenever you gain life during your turn, put a counter on it. There you go. You have the combo. It's perfect. This is whenever you lose life during your turn, whenever you gain life during your turn, put a counter on this. There you go. You found the combo. That being said, this card, I don't understand it. This seems really awful. What am I missing? This card seems absolutely awful. It does actual nothing on its own. If you have a Tavern Swindler, it's pretty good. And I guess if you have this thing, it's pretty good. But this doesn't. You don't lose life. They do. It says only when you lose life, right? Yeah, I don't understand this. Yeah, I'm off it. I'm off it. This spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a white creature. Target creature gets -4/-4 until the turn. I mean, you're probably going to be playing this. This is like strictly worse than Ray of Enfeeblement, I think. If you remember that. So it's like, it's kind of weird that the hate cards they printed in this set are like really not as nearly as good as the AFR ones. And I thought AFR was a pretty low power set. And they've just decided to print a bunch of cards that were even worse than that. That being said, I think this card you're going to be playing it. So the white one is better than this by a lot. It bypasses shield, yeah. It is really weird that they print the shield mechanic and they just like print most of the cards to get right by it, right? So really weird. Yeah, Sorcery hurts this card a ton. This card's pretty bad. Basically, you can never get tempo positive unless you kill a white creature, because every -4/-4 is going to be like 5-drops are not going to have 4 health. They're going to have 5 health. Cemetery Tampering, 3 mana enchantment, hideaway 5. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 3 cards. If there are 20 or more cards in your graveyard, this card's terrible, right? So like I put like my 7-drop underneath the hideaway. And then on turn 4, I mill 3. So 7 turns later, you get 21 cards. So you play this on turn 3, and on turn 10, you have 21 cards in your graveyard. But you probably played some cards before that, right? So you probably played 6 cards before that over the next 6 turns, right? So you play this on turn 3, and on turn 9, you'll have 20 cards. But you drew 7 in your opener, and you drew 8 cards. So that's 14, and you milled 20 cards. So you have 6 cards in your deck when you play this. But you hide away, so you have 5 cards in your deck when you play this. And it actually works. This is terrible. Helps with Threshold. So does playing a real card that does anything other than this. Other than nothing. A cut of the profits. You draw X cards and you lose X life. Okay. So if you pay 4 and 2, say you play 2 black and you sacrifice a 3-power creature, you will draw 4 cards and lose 4 life. If you pay 5 mana and sacrifice a creature, you draw 6 cards and lose 6 life. Which I think is going to be the most common use case for this. Either 4 or 5 mana. Yeah, you can't target your opponent with this. It's you only. So how good is 5 mana, sack a big creature, draw 6 cards, lose 6 life? That's pretty good. You all can just cycle it for 3 or 4 mana too. Like you can just play it for 4 mana, draw 2 discard, and draw 2, lose 2. It just has like a buyout of being able to do it even better. This card seems really good. There's so much lifelink in this set that I don't think this will ever be a bad thing. What are you sacking? Probably nothing. You're probably just going to pay 5 or 6 mana for this. The casualty, I think, is just flavor text. You're probably not going to use it. 3 mana, 2/3 menace lifelink. Sacrifice another creature. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. That's totally not Surveil. It totally does not say Surveil 1 on this card. At the beginning of your end step, if there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. This card is really good. This is a messed up card. This is a really good card. Wow. It has lifelink, it has evasion, it draws a card every turn. It also has this like random like surveil ability. This card's amazing. This isn't one that pays rent. This is a 9. Yeah, this is really good. Well, Surveil is really good with Blitz and really good like, just getting Threshold, right? Because if you sack a creature, it's a card in the graveyard. And if you Surveil the top card of your deck into your graveyard, it's another card in your graveyard, right? Yeah, this card's really good. Yeah, this card's really good. Impressive. What's an impressive rare? Yeah, so this is this Threshold in this set. So if you have like a land in your graveyard and like a 1 and a 2 and a 6 and a 7, you have 5 different mana values in your graveyard, then it works. I don't know if you know who Delirium is. It's basically just Delirium. Except instead of card types, it's mana values. You think it dies too easy. Okay, I don't know why you're throwing your 2-3 minutes lifelinker away, but maybe just try not blocking with it. If your life total is less than your starting life total, this spell costs X less to cast, or X is the difference. So at 20 life, this is a 15 mana 7/7. At 15 life, it's a 10 mana 7/7. At 10 life, it's a 5 mana 7/7. At 8 life, it's a 3 mana 7/7. It also costs 15 for mana value in the graveyard. Yeah. It seems like a pretty good card. Good when you're losing, though. There doesn't seem to be a lot of like self-damage in this set. Well, it can maybe save you, though, if you're like getting beat down. Seems like a really good cyber card. I don't know if you want to be main decking it. This card seems pretty bad when you're ahead and pretty bad on the board, on an even board state. So this seems really hard to utilize. I mean, I guess you can just connive it away if it doesn't work. Maybe because of connive, maybe it's fine. I'll put it as a 5. You're probably going to play it most of the time. I'm not going to say it's you're always going to play it. If I mark it as 6, I'm suggesting you always play it. I don't think this is an always play card. I think you'll play it a lot of the time. Shakedown Heavy. 3 mana, 6/4 menace. Whenever it attacks, defending player may have you draw a card. If they do, untap Shakedown Heavy and remove it from combat. This is a pretty good card. This is like a 9. Yeah, this is a pretty good Punisher card. Either you draw a card or they take 6. Either you draw a card and you have a blocker, or they take 6. This is a pretty strong Punisher. Yeah, this seems like a 9. I think your opponent's going to take 12, and then try to double block it is what's going to happen. But that's pretty awesome for a 3-mana card. I don't think he's going to draw a card very often, but that's a good thing. Tenacious Underdog. 2 mana, 3/2. You can blitz it if you pay 4 mana and pay 2 life. You may cast Tenacious Underdog from your graveyard using its blitz ability. Okay. So the joke is, it's a 2 mana 3/2, and when it dies for the rest of the game, you can just pay 4 mana to like attack with a 3/2 and draw a card. And it doesn't like exile itself, so it just like keeps on happening. This is a 10? No. If your opponent just has like a 2/4, it's just whatever. It works with self-mill. You think a card's insane? I think a card's like good. I don't think it's insane. Like I think Tenacious Underdog is a lot worse than Sanguine Spy, and I think it's a lot worse than Shakedown Heavy. Well, you get to pay 2 life and pay 4 mana. That's a lot to ask. It's also double black. I think this card is not nearly as good as you think it is. This seems like a 6 or a 7 to me at best. This does not seem that good to me at all. This might even just be a 5, but I'll put it as a 6. This card does not seem very good to me at all. No, it's never not going to be a 9. You're way overrating this card. This card is not very good. You're really overvaluing it. You're way overvaluing it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that if you're really excited about Tenacious Underdog, but it is not very good. You have to understand that every 4-drop is going to have 4 health in the set. Your opponent is always going to have a 4 health blocker, and so this... Yeah, I don't know why you think this card is going to be like the end-all be-all. It's just not. There's a ton of lifelink. There's a ton of lifelink in this set, and there's a ton of 4 toughness creatures, which does not go well for cards that are like this. It doesn't draw a card each turn. You have to pay 4 mana and pay 2 life, and you draw the card at the end of the turn and not immediately. It's just really, like, it's really not what you think it is. If damage would be dealt to you, prevent that damage and mill twice that many cards. Oh, this card is terrible. It already enters the battlefield and makes you lose 7 life. Right? And I mean, I guess if it dies, you get that life back. But you lose 7 life because you've only got like 26 cards in your deck when you play this. So your deck, you can only take 13 damage before you die. So actually, you probably have 12 life. I mean, if you have... This could, in theory, be a combo if you've got some of the cards that put cards on top of your deck. Like, it may be like a 5 mana 5/3 flyer that like blocks immediately and makes you not take damage that turn. So like it's like a 5 mana 5/3 that blocks, and when it dies, you like mill 12. I don't know if that's a good card. This seems like a pretty dangerous card to be playing. You're probably going to play it. I think it's pretty dangerous to be playing it. It's an interesting card. I think it's probably too dangerous to be playing, though. How does this kill the opponent fast? I mean, like, blue has like a 3/4 flyer at common. So I suspect this card's not that good. Body Launderer, 4 mana Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Body Launderer connives. Okay. And whenever it dies, return another target non-rogue creature card with equal or lesser power from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay. It's a 3/3 dot toucher that has lots of abilities. This card's pretty good. It pays a lot of rent. It's a super value. It's at least an 8. Like, it gets value either on the way in or the way out, right? It's gonna get something done. It also returns the creature untapped. So if they have any casualty card, can it potentially be a reanimate? That's pretty frustrating. Yeah, this card, it can't really fail you. Either you're losing and it's like it's 2 bodies, or you're winning and it like gives you a bunch of loots and it gets a giant death toucher. It just like it goes either way. Yeah, if your opponent rats and you gain a bunch of life, or you connive a bunch, yeah. Well, it's not 2 for 1 at worst. I mean, you can also connive, like, maybe connive a target in the graveyard, but it's not at worst, but it's like, isn't this thing a rogue? Oh, it's a human citizen. You can't get back this thing. Oh, no, it's a human advisor, you can. This thing's a rogue, though. This thing's a rogue, sadly. That's an assassin, totally not a rogue. Getting back these guys are where you want to be, right? So basically, you want to connive once to get to 4 power, and then get this thing to get it back. That seems to be what you want to be doing. Is Shakedown on the lower end of 9? I think this thing is just too massive. You're right that it's probably closer to an 8. Because if your opponent just kills it, then it doesn't do anything. You're right. This thing, I think, is actually a 9, because this pays rent every turn in multiple ways. And it actually can work on the turn you play it. You're right that this is closer to an 8. It's just like a giant idiot creature. You're right. More like Woolly Thoctor than anything. I didn't think Woolly Thoctor was that good. This is like not that much better than Woolly Thoctor. Yeah, this is actually maybe closer to a 7. You're right. Good call on that one. It's not that much better than Woolly Thoctor. It just isn't. It's at least a 7. You're right, but it is just like a giant idiot creature. It does have 4 toughness, so like if your opponent attacks with a 4-drop, and you block, they trade. Whether a 7 or an 8. I'll let you put it as an 8. It's better than a random terminate, probably. I think Body Launderer is like... Is it better than Shakedown Heavy? Probably is. It probably is. So maybe Shakedown Heavy is a 7. You think they're both 8s? Yeah. They might both be 8s. They might both be 8s. They're 8s in like different ways. Maybe Body Launderer is closer to a 9, but is it sort of pays rent? Because whenever it says no, whenever one of your other creatures dies, you connive. It like sort of pays rent, and it always gets something back. It seems hard for this to not get something back, anyways. You think Launderer? I do think Launderer is better than Shakedown Heavy. I agree. But it's the question whether it's like a 7 or 8 or 9 scale, right? It is really hard to win if your opponent has a Body Launderer in play. Well, so you can't attack it with it, you can't block it. It's tough. Because any casualty card your opponent has can instant speed pump this. Yeah, Shakedowns is a 7. Yeah, you're right, Body Launderer is really bad against Deal Gone Bad. It is really bad against this card. The question is whether Sanguine Spy is better than Body Launderer. I think it is. I think Sanguine Spy is better. I do think it's close. I think being 3 mana is a bigger deal. I think Sanguine Spy is better than Shakedown Heavy. I don't think that's close. Imagine having both. Yeah, having both would be nice. I would splash for Sanguine Spy probably, assuming that I'm looking to get Threshold. Although I don't know why you wouldn't just be playing black anyways. Black seems pretty good in this set. Like the Dig Up the Body is completely is insane. The Rogue's Gallery is completely insane. The Girder Goons looks really strong. I'm not sure how to evaluate this card yet. This seems like it'd be like a pretty fun card to play with and see what happens. The black seems like the power level that blue is in other sets. The black seems really strong so far. This Maestros Initiate looks really fun. You're probably going to play Mishra's Initiate in every deck. Like, you're going to play every one of these you open, even if you're not black. Just because you can connive it away. And get it like a flashback draw, too. I think Dust Mangler is really good. But the fact that it costs, like, 7 mana just so much to pay in a looting set. Like, you have to understand that, like, every land that you play is a spell, is, like, you could have had a spell instead of that. There's just so much looting in this set. There's so much draw 1 and discard 1s. So, I mean, this costs. 7 mana is a lot to pay for this. But Graveyard Shift looks pretty bananas if you've got the right cards to get for it. Yeah, maybe Great Dust Mangler is better than I don't think Dust Mangler is as good as like Shakedown Heavy, right? I think it's worse than that. So I think it's like pretty clearly a full point worse than Shakedown Heavy. But yeah, Black looks pretty fun to play with. I'd be interested. They have some. Black is going to be the color that you're basically always going to be playing, I think. Because I think Dig Up the Body at common is going to be so incredibly important. And if there's anything that we've learned in the set so far, is that you want to be using your removal spells whenever your opponent is tapped out. There's so much casualty to instant speed in this set. There's just no reason to ever wait. And actually, because there's so much casualty, I'm actually thinking of maybe I'll make this the Sleep with the Fishes down to a 7. It's a little bit worse. It's still really good, but it is a little bit worse.